Welcome to the Daily Signals Facebook Live. I'm Daniel Davis. We're coming to you from our studio at the Heritage Foundation, where today we have the honor of being joined by Dr. Russell Moore, who's president of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission of the Southern Baptist Convention. Dr. Moore, thank you for taking the time to join us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, this year, 2018, marks 45 years since the Roe v. Wade decision that changed abortion laws in this country, made it legal. And this year we have as every year, we have the March for Life, which you will be at, I understand. And this year's theme is Love Saves Lives. What message does that send, and what message do you think those participating in the march, those observing, should take at our cultural moment 40 years after Roe versus Wade?
Well, I think one of the things that I really would like all of American culture to see is the way that the pro-life movement is putting into action ground-level compassion in ways I don't think people really see or understand, not only in terms of advocacy for the lives of the unborn, but also in terms of equipping women who are in crisis. When I look around at pregnancy resource centers around the country and other ministries, they're dealing with every aspect of life, of helping women with job training, with adoption services when that's necessary, or a whole range of care. And so I think many people just don't know that and don't understand that about the pro-life movement.
Yeah, one of the things that always strikes me at the march is not just how many people are there, but the diversity of people who are representing the movement, who are active, a lot of young people there, particularly the young people. Why do you think the pro-life movement is gaining such traction among young people? Well,
one of the things, I sort of have mixed feelings every year at the March for Life, because I always think, I hope that my future grandchildren will not have to come to a March for Life, and will look back and say, why did they have to march for something that's so obvious in terms of protecting human life and human dignity? On the other hand, though, I'm thrilled and elated. I think if you went in a time machine back to 1973, 1974, and said, what will the pro-life movement look like in 2018? Probably most people would have said, there won't be a pro-life movement. This will be settled. This will move on. And now, 45 years later, the mall, Washington Mall, filled with very young people. They're advocating for human life. That's really encouraging and cheering. I think there are a number of reasons. One of those reasons being young people understand human rights, understand human dignity. There's a sense of compassion there. Also, they're just accustomed to seeing life in the womb represented in so many ways. I mean, when someone gets pregnant now, what happens? Usually they're posting on Facebook or on social media the first ultrasound picture, and that's the first picture of their baby. So science has come a long way since 1973, and so to deny the personhood of the unborn child really requires an act of will to look away from that.
Absolutely. Well, you also mentioned adoption and adoption agencies, something that is definitely an integral part of the life-affirming movement is adoption, but maybe doesn't get quite as much attention. You are an adoptive father yourself. You've written and spoken about adoption and the role that it plays in this movement. Tell us a little bit about that. How does adoption factor into this life-affirming movement?
Well, we understand that not only does every child have dignity and deserve life, but every child deserves a family. And so we have right now children who are in the foster care system all around the country who are desperately in need of parents. And so you have people stepping up and moving into the lives of children, not just in the United States, but around the world. In a way that is growing and that I'm very encouraged by. One of the things that some pro-choice people have said for years that just isn't true is to say, well, pro-life people believe that life begins at conception and ends at birth. And so that pro-life people are only concerned about unborn children. That is not the case. And you can see that with the way that the pro-life community is ministering not only to women who are in crisis up to the point of a decision about abortion, but after that. And in many instances, that means stepping into sometimes very, very difficult situations. I'm just this morning with a woman who's an adoptive mother who has 3 very, very severely special needs children. She's pouring her life into. I see that all the time, and that's really a cheering thing.
Yeah. Well, in the adoption world, some of our viewers may be aware that there's some adoption agencies feel in limbo right now because of some of the legal pressure that's being brought to bear on them because of their religious views. And there's some legislation in Congress to address that, as well as some other pro-life legislation. Can you talk a little bit about what those adoption providers are facing? What's at stake this year?
Well, it's crazy to me that there would be people who would say, when we have this much need, and when it comes to children, that what we want to do is to play culture war with children's lives and to exclude an entire group of people who are on the ground actively working to help children. And instead, what we ought to be saying in American life is, let's have as many people and groups as possible working to help children. Yeah. And so when you have, for instance, in Massachusetts, the Catholic Church not able to provide adoption services because they're required by law to violate their own religious convictions in order to do that, that's not just hurting religious people in some way. That's primarily hurting children.
Right.
And so addressing that, I think, is something necessary. So what I would say to people who would say, well, I don't like Catholic or evangelical or other groups that are ministering to kids and working for kids, okay, then provide alternative ways of serving kids from your own point of view, rather than silencing everyone else.
Right. Well, there's the Child Welfare Provider Protection Bill in Congress to address this, right?
Yeah, and to really free up a lot of not just those adoption and foster care services that are, as you put it, kind of in limbo legally right now, but also the sort of chilling effect of people who are setting out to serve children, but who are wondering, will we be able to do this? Why would we invest so much time and money and energy if we're going to be shut down in a year or two? And so I think that this sort of legislation would free up a great deal of energy across the country.
Yeah, well, you have to just hope that most Americans, when they hear about that adoption providers that just want to serve children, that they will be sympathetic to that, and that a majority will back that. Well, Dr. Moore is president of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission of the Southern Baptist Convention. You can find him on Twitter at drmoore, and also read his blog. Is it russellmoore.com? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Moore, so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for joining us. Please keep an eye out for more Facebook Live videos. Tomorrow we'll be coming to you live from the march, so stay tuned for that.